The greatest tragedy is to see a man pour his heart out for a congregation for the greater part of his life, and then when it comes time for him to be taken care of in a time of need and the resources are not there, it just breaks my heart.
100 years ago, when MMBB was founded, pensions were virtually unheard of for any type of workers in America. Ministers, missionaries, and their families were especially challenged by meager salaries and worked deep into old age. Henry Morehouse, a frontier pastor and denominational executive, had a unique vision to create a groundbreaking benefits plan to improve those conditions.
History shows that one person can make a difference. Henry Morehouse was that person for MMBB.
With help from the Northern Baptist Convention, Morehouse and others worked feverishly to raise the funds to create what is now called MMBB. The first grants were made in 1912, and the Ministers and Missionaries Benefit Board dedicated itself to promote interest in the better maintenance of the ministry, a mission that extended far beyond financial support alone.
We are called to promote interest in the better maintenance of the ministry. To promote is an action word. That calls us to do more than sit back and allow benefits to be paid out. It is our mission. It is my passion.
MMBB just takes the most wonderful care of its people, its clergy, before and after retirement. I don't know of any other program that compares to this.
I think we are seen as a strong, supportive organization that you can depend on. And that would not have been possible had we not realized that we had to enlarge our vision about where we were going and find out ways to bring in larger numbers of people.
In order to thrive financially, MMBB needed to grow. And in the early 1940s, MMBB doubled in enrollment during its Worry-Free by 43 campaign. Then, in 1950, the Northern Baptist Convention reorganized as the American Baptist Convention. Through the 1950s and 60s, Baptists were in the forefront of the struggle for civil rights, and MMBB experienced membership growth in the South as it responded to the stress that both black and white ministers were experiencing.
The late Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was not able to get insurance through regular companies because they figured that his life was being threatened so much.
Hey, this must never happen again in Birmingham.
Just 3 days after the tragic bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, King was persuaded to join MMBB for his family's protection.
Abernathy came into King and said, "Sign this. Don't ask what it is, but you need to sign this." And his children lived on M&M benefits until adulthood.
One of the great things about MMBB has been that it has evolved with changing circumstance. It has expanded to be more inclusive for people who were not in the original American Baptist family, but are committed to the values for which we stand.
In the year 2000, an IRS decision enabled MMBB to expand its membership even further to other church groups who share the basic principles of Baptist faith and governance. By 2011, 1/4 of all active MMBB members are from these 14 additional denominations that MMBB represents.
It is so important to our mission to reach out and to offer these plans to persons who do not yet have the protections that they afford.
Our investment committee invests for the long term, a strategy that will protect you during weak markets and support you during strong markets.
When I came on the board in the mid-60s, the total assets of the board were someplace between 100 and 200 million. By the time I left the board a couple decades later, the total assets were over $1 billion, and that was due to the fact that we had a splendid finance committee.
MMBB was one of the early groups to move towards a defined benefit plan in the 30s. And then in the 60s, they were among the first to move to what's called a variable annuity style, meaning your money's invested in your name into a portfolio of market funds and vehicles. That was a very radical thing to do in the late 50s and 60s.
I think we've always been on the cutting edge. Our investment policy has always taken advantage of every opportunity allowed by regulators.
And the employer makes the contributions on your behalf.
MMBB does provide a wide range of services. I don't think that Fidelity, nor Morgan Stanley, nor any other organization that I know of can provide all of those things.
The level of professionalism of the MMBB staff was unsurpassed, and frankly, the cost of administering the programs was so much less expensive through MMBB.
I appreciate how our investments and our future are managed with our own Christian convictions in mind.
The market collapse in 2008 was an extraordinary time. I think through a combination of a strong endowment base, a strong strategy for survival, budget reductions, and careful stewardship of the resources, 2 to 3 years later now, we're back on target.
MMBB responded to the 2008 economic crisis with a forward-looking strategy that survival is not good enough. Growth is the only alternative.
MMBB is very on top of the issues of our economy, the concerns. It's almost like MMBB provides me information and answers to my questions before I even ask the questions or know what questions to ask.
And then MMBB has a 100-year history with over $2 billion under their management. That's an incredibly solid background.
That's a great motivator for all of us to know that here's a program that's been around, that is successful, and that it isn't going anywhere, and it's solid.
One of the things that MMBB has done is, I think, to keep us courageous. If we were having to worry about singing for our supper every week, we would not have the kind of freedom of the pulpit we have.
I faced with this extended illness and a series of strokes, I faced financial ruin. And if it had not been for MMBB, we would have suffered greatly.
As we look to the future, we will continue to build on the innovations of the past. There is a vast host of people out there who are lacking the benefits and the services that we offer and that they so much need, so that they will have protections in the event of a death or disability, protections for themselves and their families, and then the opportunity to build assets for a dignified retirement.